Hi, welcome to Growing Bonsai. 50 euros, one tree, one pot and substrate, and create a bonsai out of it. That was the challenge. Can it be done? Or will I have to go for $100 to get a decent tree? Carlos from Bonsai Yeah set the challenge. Challenge accepted. These are not dollars, these are euros. €1, $1. I think it matches. I'll find some substrate, I'll find some trees, and I'll discuss with you why initially I said no to the challenge. So my first stop to get some plants. Let's have a look here at the main nursery, which is about half an hour's drive away from my house. And there is a bonsai section. No, I don't want to go there. Let's have a look here. All small stuff, all cheap stuff. But I want something big. I want something with a big trunk. Nothing here. Let's take a look at their pot section, but I can't buy a pot now. I'll need to come back for the pots here later on if I have found another tree. Hardware store. Normally there's lots of plants here that you can use for hedges, but there's nothing really here. Pots are useless as well. Okay, let's get back in the car. This is a landscape nursery. It has a lot of plants. Take a look at these. This is tamarix. Perfect for bonsai, but no, these are still too small. What do I have here? Taxus, yew. This looks very promising. More straight trunks. Okay, I guess this is it. I'll take the Picea and I'll take a yew and we'll see what we can do with these. Let's go back to the garden center and get us some pots. Let's see what I've got. 2 pots, bag of substrate, a yew and a spruce. Now the big question, 50 euros. Was it enough? Or 100 euros? What did I use? Substrate. This is 17 euros for the bag. 2 pots. They're not perfect, but they'll do the job. I got a big one and a small one. Just regular round pots. Not specific for bonsai. It's $6.99 and $8.99. Beggars can't be choosers. A spruce. Very simple tree. €18.90. That's not a lot of money. This is a big tree. What you can't tell yet, but what will become clear later on. It is a twin trunk. Next up is a yew. Yes, I do have yews. The nice thing about this yew, and you can't really tell, there's little fruiting bodies on this. So this is a female plant. Next to this, it has a decent trunk. And this plant cost me the whole of 28 euros. So this is by far the most expensive tree and the most expensive part of my collection trip. So it is quite hot and it's quite windy and we're in the middle of summer, and that is one of the problems that I have with the challenge right now. On top of that, I am going to be away for a week, so I'm not going to work all that much on the trees. I'm just going to remove a few things. The reason why I selected this tree is because you see multiple branches, but digging in the soil I found that all these branches are connected. So when styling, I'm going to go back all the way to here to find out where the connection is and see what I'm going to keep. Nice big trunk. I've always wanted a yew with fruits, and now I have one. So I was actually quite pleased that I found this tree, and I have to be thankful to the people that invited me to join this challenge. Otherwise I would not have gone to this nursery because it's an hour drive away. Thank you. So the heat is gone. The tree has survived well in the shade and it's time to get it to the table. Preparation is everything. So prepare your mesh, your pot and your substrate, that when the tree is ready to be potted up, everything is sitting ready to go. If you don't know how much substrate to mix and you don't have a big tub, do this. I'm cheating. I didn't buy this round. I still had the bark at home. 2 euros a bag. So after we prepared the pot and the substrate, it's now time to have a look at the actual tree. First, start looking at the base of the tree. This tree has multiple trunks, and I think that this branch and that branch will both come from the bottom of the trunk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of the pot. I'm going to remove the substrate, going down, down, down until I reach the first thick roots. That's where I'll stop. I'm not going to take all the substrate out yet. I'm first going to look at the rest of the tree before I do any repotting work. What you see here is quite typical for trees grown in the ground and then potted up. You see here, this is the ground soil. On top here, you see, this is very organic. This is the substrate that they added when they pulled it out of the field and then planted it up. And in fact, here you can even see the net that was used when they harvested the tree originally. With bonsai there is a time and a place for every action. Pruning, repotting, styling, all in one go is for most species too much. I am quite familiar with yew, so I am convinced that this tree can take quite a bit of handling. But yeah, it is not optimal, and I do recommend everybody to think about this. Maybe it's slightly hard to tell, but we're now down all the way to some of the side branches, and this side branch going up here actually has a very big root attached here. But this branch will have to go. And this can now be potted up as a separate plant. Waste not, want not. Now a little open question for you. If you go to a nursery and you look for a bonsai tree, then what do you look for? With this tree, the Nebari was not visible, but I could tell that these branches were connected to the main trunk, giving me a good taper at the lower half. Now I'm slowly here getting to the point where the main roots are coming out. So this is roughly the level of the Nebari. This is a bad root. It's going to go. But for the rest it looks pretty okay, and I'm not going to go further down than this. So let's take a look at this tree. Now if you look from this side, this will probably be the future back. You'll see there's a big trunk going up and it has a nice taper up there, but the movement is very, very boring. These two branches, they don't bring anything except for keeping the tree alive, and they're not going to be part of the final design in my... From this side, there's nothing interesting. And from this side, you can also tell there is really nothing interesting happening. But if we now turn it around this way, we have the original surface roots that I showed before. We have this old branch that I clipped off. This is just a big branch going up, which is just blocking the view. Here the same, the ones going up can go. But I'm going to leave these two in place for the time being to help the plant re-establish itself after I've worked it. Because what I'm going to do is quite drastic. Because I'm going to take this main trunk, I'm not going to take this one, but I'm going to take this trunk that goes forward. What we then get, if this is gone, you get a nice taper in your trunk, goes up. It curves a little bit to the left, but up here it curves again to the right. The back is going to go. There's a smaller branch here in the back that I can use to fill up this space here. This is just for future health. When you're in the middle of design, always leave a few stumps, because you never know whether you want a yin. And now for the big one. So after this action, it's probably a lot clearer why I am a little bit concerned with doing this work in the middle of summer. I do cut substantial parts of a tree off when I start styling. And now I have the basic framework for the tree. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take all the bark off the old stump, because I really am not going to use it. And I know that yew wood is very hard to work on when it is dry. I'm going to take a bit of wire a few of the branches out. Health over beauty. So do some rough work on the dead wood now. This is still quite easy as the wood is still fresh, but wait for the fine detailing until the wood has dried and settled and cracked. Also, I don't use any yin liquid or any other conserving material now, because I actually do want the wood to age and crack. So I'm not going to do all that much on the dead wood. I said I was going to use the natural line here into this branch and not use the big branch here. Now this is not part of the design. This branch could be part of the design. This definitely is part of the design. Then I have a branch here, and this actually is my new top for taper. There's little fruits on this tree, and I'm going to remove them because they just take energy from the plant. All that is left to do is take off a few of the older needles, but I'm going to leave most of them on. It will need most of the foliage that it has. And I'll wire it out with 1.5 and 1 millimeter of aluminium. This is heavy enough for most of the branches. It will not be heavy enough for this one and that one, but the heavier the wire I'm going to use, the more pressure I'm going to put on the branches. And because I've removed so much of this and I will be repotting this, I don't really want to put pressure on the branches. So I'm just going to do a light wiring. Some of the branches next year will have to be readjusted. I am thinking this one and the one in the back. I can't do too much work. I want this tree to survive because it is going to be the best bonsai you have ever seen in the $50 challenge. I do apologize for the wiring. It is a little bit messy. I'm trying to do as little damage as I can, so I'm using much more wire than normal because I'm using thinner wire today. And I'm applying it double in places where I need more strength. Almost done with the 1.5 millimeters, and then it's time for the 1 millimeter wire. When wiring, make sure you don't trap the needles between the wire and the branch. That way they'll live longer, they'll help with photosynthesis, and your tree stays healthier afterwards. A guy wire can help to set branches in place that are too heavy for thin wire. So I have one concern with bonsai styling challenges or competitions, is that people work on trees that are not ready to be worked on. And also it gives off the impression that bonsai is an instant gratification hobby. Whereas in fact the best bonsai are created by applying technique over time and slowly letting a tree mature. So there have been quite a few people participating in this challenge. And down below in the description you can find the links of all the videos I've been able to find so far. Have you also participated in this challenge and would you like me to include your link down below? Let me know, pop me a comment and let me know what the link is. Hey, hello, there's a little visitor. The tree is fully wired. Time to finalize the repotting. A little trick. This way the soil won't accumulate around the roots. Now it is key to get the old webbing off and try to not disturb the young roots as much as possible. I'm afraid that the root ball will fall apart as I do this, but we'll see. With the webbing off, we can now slowly start to get deeper into the core of the root ball. You prefer very dry roots. This sandy soil will stay wet very, very long, so I am going to remove quite a bit so I don't get a yucky wet root mass on the inside. If you do this with a young yew, there's not a big problem. As you can tell, these roots have all been chopped earlier, probably in spring, when they potted it up. Older yews do not take this root work all that easily. Now after potting it, the first instinct would be to make sure you keep it well watered. However, yews do not like soggy roots. In general, when you are repotting a tree, keep in mind the roots might not be taking up all that much water, so be very careful and gentle when watering it. Let me remove the webbing. Last little shake. Ready for a pot. I'm only wiring them to keep the plant in the pot, so it doesn't need all that much support. I just don't want a wind gust or a silly movement from my side to have the tree fall out. Now make sure that all the fine roots go back down into the pot where possible. And yes, you can use the old wire to limp or to push them back in. And they stay below the surface once you fill it up. This one will probably not live unless I get it to stick. So I've been watching all these bonsai challenges that Carlos from Bonsai Yeah started. I think he challenged Nigel Saunders, and what I surprised, they all have such small trees. In fact, what you're buying when you're buying a tree is time. The bigger the trunk, the more time you've bought. So when I go out for a tree, I go for big trunks. I don't like eeny weeny teeny little trees. Anyway, I'm sure my trees are going to win. Bring it on. So this one is done. It will go in a half shaded position. I'll keep the foliage moist, but I'll keep care that I don't overwater the root ball. And we'll see this one later. Now let's get the Picea. A €50 bonsai challenge in the middle of summer. What were they thinking? I have this Picea and it was a fairly affordable tree, but it doesn't mean I want to lose it. So I'm not going to do all this much on it. Today I am just going to decide upon the front, trim it back, put some branches in place and leave it at that. Summer is not the time to repot Picea and summer is not the time to wire it. In fall I'll wire, in spring I'll repot. Smells like Christmas. Carlos, you didn't really think this through, did you? You went out and got yourself a tiny itsy bitsy little tiny little tree. How are you ever going to make a convincing bonsai out of this? Don't you know things need to be big? So I'm removing all the branches that grow in between the two trunks, because later on I clearly want this to be a twin trunk and you need to see the twin trunks and the space between them. At the same time, what I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm removing all these little branches that grow from the trunk that are not really contributing, so that only the main trunks, the main branches are left. As we all know, the bottom third of a bonsai is normally bare from branches. So as I'm thinning this out, I come to the section where one of the main trunks splits into two, and I only want to keep one. And normally trees will grow away from each other in a twin trunk fashion, so I'm going to remove the inner one. I must have mentioned that I really dislike turntables. They keep turning on you. So all this inner growth, just take it out. Don't need all this stuff in here. Most of the inner stuff is gone. A lot more light will now enter the inside of the tree. Quite happy so far actually. Probably the future front of the tree. Lots of branches to choose from still later on, and I can easily fan these out. Let me put a few guy wires on there so that they stay open and nicely exposed. Yeah, pretty good. Nigel, you think you can do better? These guys, they don't know who they challenged. Just wait until springtime when I do an update on this tree, when it's completely wired and repotted. Way too tall. I don't want to work on a tall tree that I cannot reach the tip of. That's better than this one as well. Less height is more taper. The growing tips on the tip are gone, then hopefully the lower branches will have a chance to catch up. Look at these masses of that stuff. This tree must have been in the pot for ages. It's going to be so happy when I finally repot it. Let's get rid of this. Such a shame we're in the middle of summer. I would have loved to continue working on this right now. You hear that? The police is already on its way. It's just illegally good what I'm doing here. Can't let a couple of Canadians win this challenge. That's it. This is the first part of a at least two-part video on a €50 bonsai styling challenge. Not going to do much more on this one. I will be back with this tree in spring, after I've properly wired it, I've properly potted it up. But this is it for now. Didn't I say stop filming? I said I was done. Don't film this. This is for next time. The mess you make when you just make two little videos.